5 for 5. That was LSU last year on fourth down conversions in its 28-24 win against Florida. Don't think the Gators have forgotten about that. Hey, how are you, folks? Jason Horowitz, glad to be with you on the SEC Game of the Week presented by Geico here on CBSSports.com. The 11th-ranked Florida Gators hosting the defending national champion LSU Tigers. And to help me break it down, we bring in Spencer Tillman. Spence, that video of the 5 for 5 has been looped in the training room in Florida all week long. Then Ricky Jean-Francois, the defensive tackle for LSU, comes out and says, we're going to take out Tim Tebow, meaning try and knock him out of the game. Thoughts on those tools for motivation for Urban Meyer's squad?
Well, look, it's always bulletin board material, and you don't want it if you can avoid it. But you know what? I don't think the game plan is going to call for Tim Tebow to carry the ball as much as he has, certainly last year. The most he's carried it this year is 15 times, and it netted him 7 yards. So it's a different game plan. Dan Mullen wants to keep him around that 10 or 11 carries per game, and that's where I expect him to be. But that doesn't mean he won't have to drop back and pass a little bit. And so that defensive front for LSU, which is pretty formidable, will have some opportunities, but not as much as they would be if Tebow was carrying the football.
Spence, it's the first time in 18 years that the last two national champs have met in the regular season. Haven't seen it since 1990. Can we actually overstate the importance of this game?
No, it's a huge game. It's probably bigger for Florida than it is for LSU. I mean, obviously the Ole Miss loss at the Swamp was embarrassing to Urban Meyer. I think they really overlooked Ole Miss. They overlooked Houston Nutt, who's a tremendous coach at leveraging emotion, and he's a pretty good X's and O's kind of guy as well. I think that the problem for them, talking about Florida, is they've got to get off to a fast start. They've let teams hang around that shouldn't be hanging around deep into the third quarter. Arkansas had no business being as close as they were last week, but they were there. So Urban Meyer's got to up his game as well as get the ball to his skill position players so that they can distance themselves, which is going to be a harder task today or this day versus some of the lesser competition that they face in recent weeks.
You talk about those skill position players. Percy Harvin, he's been held out of practice a couple of times this week with the ankle injury. They've been getting big plays out of their running game this year, more so than they did last year. If he can't go, can Chris Rainey do it himself? If he can go, can Florida get those big plays out of the running game?
Demps, Chris Rainey, any of those guys can provide it. Look, there's more than one way to skin a cat, as we say down south here. You can do it with those skill position guys, wide receivers on end arounds. Those count as rushes, not receptions. So at the end of the day, I think what Urban Meyer's got to do is test himself and push Dan Mullen a little bit more to be creative. We saw a little bit of that late in the Ole Miss game, or rather late in that Arkansas contest, but it wasn't as early as it needed to be. You cannot afford to get behind against Les Miles right now with Charles Scott running the ball as effectively as he is. They will control the clock, and that's right in Les Miles' wheelhouse. The offensive coordinator, Coach Gary Croton, is one to open it up a little bit, but believe me, if they get up 2 touchdowns, they're going to grind it out, and that's going to be problematic for Florida.
Well, what about that offense for LSU? You're talking about grinding it out. Obviously, that's what they did last year with Jacob Hester. They have Charles Scott this year. But what about the quarterback position? It's been Jarrett Lee's team the last couple since Andrew Hatch got knocked out, but Les Miles said he's going to use both quarterbacks in this game. Is that a good idea?
Well, he may use both of them, but again, I think Jarrett Lee is playing as well as any of the quarterbacks. Hatch is a good guy with an interesting story. But I think Jarrett Lee, by the way, out of Brenham, Texas, right outside of Houston, home of Buble ice cream, by the way, high-calorie dessert there. That is a guy that's been playing exceptionally well. When they did away with Perilou, when they ousted him from the team back in the summer, nobody expected quarterback play to be a strength for LSU, but it is, mainly because of the decision-making that Jarrett Lee has had in the last couple of weeks. If he continues to progress like he is right now, I think that Les Miles moves one step out of the shadow, of course, Nick Saban, who won a championship for them back in 2003, because he's doing it his way and not with the guys that he recruited, but with his own guys.
Spence, what is the one key you're looking at, the one thing you're looking for in this game?
The one key that everybody needs to have their eyes peeled is how quickly can Florida get their offensive machine running. They waited 3 quarters to get it done against Arkansas. That's too late. They waited too long against Ole Miss at home, and it bit them in the back with a home loss. I think if they can't get off early, this is going to be another embarrassment for Coach Urban Meyer at home.
So who wins the game, Spence?
LSU is going to win this contest, and they're going to do it by 9 or more points, Jason.
How'd you come up with 9, just out of curiosity?
Well, you got to look at the number one, how these coaches like to play. Small ball for Les Miles. Urban Meyer, despite the fact that he has an offensive mind and reputation, he loves defense. He's not opposed to playing a 17-14 type contest, but look for a safety in this game and also look for a missed extra point as well.
All right, well, there it is. Because usually you're like by a touchdown or by a touchdown or 2 touchdowns. So the 9 was just throwing me off a little bit. Maybe I was
something
thinking
in the special teams. Something in the special teams will determine the outcome
3 field
of this
goals.
game, I promise.
There it is. Or the safety. Spencer Tillman, thank you very much, sir. We'll see you all day Saturday on CBS.
All right, Jason, we'll see you, buddy.
And, folks, don't forget about SEC Live on CBSSports.com. Each and every game you see on CBS, you can see streaming live on CBSSports.com. This week you get 2. Of course, you get Florida and LSU, which kicks off at 8 o'clock on CBS. But you also get Tennessee and Georgia, which kicks off at 3:30 on CBS. And for more on those games or any other, be sure to stay with CBSSports.com. For Spencer Tillman, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.